5.
No
You'll
problem.
tell by
It's time for the Everyman podcast. So sit back, it's time to get your brain relaxed. So tune in almost every week as we share our thoughts that it's okay to speak. It's the Everyman, but it's for everyone. Making mental health priority one. But it's for everyone, making mental health priority one.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Everyman podcast. Now, tonight, we have a conversation which we traditionally as a podcast have never touched on before. And we have an incredible guest in Dionne Slater who's joining us on the podcast to share her views and opinions on this topic. How are you doing tonight, Dionne?
I'm good, thank you. I'm not gonna lie, I usually make more of an effort when I come on podcast, but I've been painting the new house all day, and
Yeah.
I'm absolutely shattered. So I went in the shower just before, and I got back, and I'm like, I'm putting my fucking pajamas on, and I'm going to bed straight after this. So apologies for looking so rough.
I would never say you look rough, ever. I don't think I can ever say that without getting a slap. So it's absolutely understandable. And you are also pregnant. So new home, painting and decorating, and coming on a podcast late. Yeah, it's impressive. Yeah. Misha, how are you doing tonight?
I'm all good, not bad, thank you. All good. Just got my daughter's friends are here tonight, so I'm just trying to keep the noise down so I can hear them upstairs. So if you do hear anything, I'll have to go on mute.
No, that's absolutely fine. It's understandable. And I suppose that's the joys of running a podcast, being a parent, work-life balance. And I think that's something that people don't really consider when they think about, like, we're doing this very much as people with a passion for health conversations, but we are still just normal people, right? Like, we still have our own life, our own challenges, and all those sorts of things going on.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, Dionne, we invited you on the podcast, right? We're going to go straight into it from you sharing a fairly bold and out there post, right? And the topic of tonight's episode, or what we've named it, is all around the OnlyFans culture in today's society and potentially some of the challenges that's posing on young people. I think there's an impact on everyone at every age generally, but the big impact and the fear is on younger, more impressionable people in today's society who might look at someone like, and I know your post talked about Bonnie Blue, for example, where it looks like quick, easy money to make some content, a little bit of fame, because everyone in today's world, the Instagram culture as well, wants to get a bit of fame and headlines. Yeah. But what is the true impact on that really on people?
Yeah, it's just, I feel like in so many ways, it's like such a huge step backwards for women. We've been fighting now for such a long time for more like equal rights and this and that, and to be just treated more fairly. And then, unfortunately, this sort of culture, it just feels like it's a huge step back. Women have been objectified, degraded, sexualized for thousands of years now. But then we've now got this huge, it felt like we were making progress, but now we've got the likes of OnlyFans and Bonnie Blue, and especially when it's been so highly publicized, they're sleeping with 1,000 men. And it's just like a huge step backwards, because so many, like you said, impressionable young people, for example, so many young boys, young men are gonna get the impression, oh well, it's okay to treat a woman like a piece of meat. And on the other side of that, there's going to be a lot of impressionable young girls, young women. I know, because I fell for this in the past as well. It was like, sex work, right? that's a way, that sounds like a fun way to make some quick and easy money, and it's just so damaging. So yeah, it's just, I did like when I first heard about Bonnie Blue, because first of all it was the Lily Phillips. She was the one who was going to do it first, wasn't she? I genuinely felt sorry for Bonnie Blue, but like I was just saying to you guys before we pressed record, since I've even did that post, I'm seeing a lot of clips of Bonnie, and it's like she's intentionally creating all this rage bait. I think one of the last videos I saw her do was all about something about like men. It's like husbands, it's like okay to like cheat on your wives if you're not getting enough, like I'll be here to like service you. And it's just like, it's so damaging, it's so harmful. And it's like, you're a woman, like why are you like fighting against us? You should be like women supporting women, and it just feels like it's the complete opposite.
It's like it makes me wonder. It's blurring the lines between kind of exploitation and empowerment, isn't it? So I think like Bonnie Blue, you can see people saying how empowered they feel to do that, and yes, it's great in that sense. But is that element of the exploitation, and where do you draw the line between that? Because like you said, using women as meat and just abusing our women and then that sort of thing, that is technically what they're doing. This transactional relationship, isn't it? Kind of, there's no emotional side of that thing, and it's just kind of
100%.
totally blurs that lines, doesn't it? Like, where does that stop? How does it impact the person how does it impact the woman? Like, how does that, it begs the question, doesn't it? How do they deal with that emotionally? It's hard to fathom whether it impacts their self-worth, how they see that. Does it impact their views on intimacy and relationships moving forward? Like, how does that work? Obviously, you said something earlier about the previous, like the sex work game. Is that something that, like, how do you come away from that side of things? Does it impact you in that way for everybody? Do you know a case where it hasn't?
Personally, no. Obviously, I was briefly one years ago. And then while I was in that work, I met quite a few sex workers. Both men and women sex workers, all of the ones I knew, myself included, we had really warped views of intimacy. There was absolutely no trust to the opposite sex whatsoever. So, for example, the clients that I saw, like they were all married, and I've still got trust issues. There were doctors. One of them worked for the royal family. I mean, these were like really, really high up people that I saw. And I was just like seeing these people in power and married as well. It made me suspicious of every single man for such a long time. I didn't like sex. I didn't like intimacy. I was just like, I'm going to be alone forever, just me and my dog. And there was actually a period where like I fucking hated men. I had a lot of hatred towards them. And the male sex workers I knew, they had similar views towards other women as well. So it was just, I mean, from what I've seen, and I can't obviously speak on behalf of everyone, but for myself and the people that I knew and know in the sex work industry, there's definitely been a detrimental effect there.
Yeah, so that the attachment style, the attachment issue, does that bring about that? Yeah,
100%. Yeah,
pretty crazy. It is.
It's crazy because, like, we've spoke about this before, so we not maybe to that degree, but in terms of, we spoke about dating previously, and we were saying how the app culture, the swipe culture, made relationships and intimacy very transactional. It was, I fancy you. I can't remember if you swipe right or left, whatever one you swipe for a yes. Like, I fancy you, yes. I don't fancy you. I'm not attracted to you, no. But actually, all that makes all connection is physical, and it doesn't build any emotional or real personal connection with people. And then when you make sex solely about that with things like OnlyFans, we spoke about porn addiction previously as well, with one of our favorite ever guests, and when we talk about these things, it's almost like our primitive instincts, like to mate, to hunt, to protect, all those sorts of things, like
Yeah.
OnlyFans and this sort of porn culture is giving us like an extreme dopamine hit of something that shouldn't be so easy to access.
Yeah, it's the total culture of instant gratification. Like, as
That's it.
humans, we're fucking obsessed with it. TikTok is literally turning people's brains into scrambled egg. I've read, excuse me, I've read in a few places, apparently our attention span is now less than that of a goldfish, because everything, like you said, we've got Tinder, swipe, swipe, swipe. We've got TikTok, swipe, swipe, swipe. Even like people who are in sex work, OnlyFans, everything is just there at your fingertips. No one has to like work for anything anymore. And if you're not satisfied within the first 2 seconds, boom, on to the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I mean, obviously, I know slightly it's not off topic, but in terms of having a daughter, thinking about this kind of this constant swipe culture, like my daughter can't even, you know, the way she listens to music's changed. Like it's completely, you know, we'd listen. We would put it. Can you remember we would sit with our CDs with our words and would sit and read, you know, sing the song. Well, sit with your words on the back of the book, you know, and you'd learn the song. Whereas my daughter, like, she'll come in and just puts this mashup and just like constant about five seconds of each song. And I'm like, you know, this is the impact that it's having. Like, our attention span, our ability to stay prolonged and focused is completely changing. And that's evident in relationships as well, where, you know, we're losing that connection because we're just constantly looking next best thing, or, you know, knowing that it's so heavily available, things out there where we're exposed, so we're losing that connection and, like I say, that emotional intimacy connection with somebody, especially where that is concerned. Anyway, I just think it's just bizarre. It's just shaping our existence completely, you know, society in the wrong way. And sometimes I think it's complete negative. I sometimes can't.
But where does it end up? That's the thing. Where does if it like society from a like everything? So it's really awkward, but not awkward. But I work in a technology business, right? So a lot of my the things I'm interested in, I'm really passionate about technology, innovation. But unless we maintain the core human interactions, personal relationships, like it's really unfulfilling. Like, do you remember when we all first started to get to work from home? It was fucking brilliant. Like, I was like, I have so much more time. I can do what I want. Like, I can go shopping and still get back for work and all these sorts of things. Where a little bit controversial, my work then brought in a 3 and 2 policy. I think a lot of businesses are now doing it. But since I've had to be in the office 3 days, I've pretty much gone in the office every day, because once I've started getting back in and having real conversations with people, like I feel so much better. Like I feel like an actual human and not like I'm just sitting behind a screen on video calls with people all the time.
And if that's the thing you said, I feel like an actual human. As humans, we need connection. We are wired for connection. And even though we have got the most advanced technology at our fingertips, the medicine we've got access to is so advanced now, yet we are the most depressed we've ever been because we don't have that connection.
I think it's the emotional side of it as well. We're taking that emotional out of it, like say the connection. Us as humans, that's what we're designed for, you know, to feel our emotions. And I think all of this we're just constantly moving on to the next thing and not actually being present with ourselves, if you know what I'm saying, like in that emotional aspect. And I think same goes with relationships. It's unfulfilling if you don't feel that emotion, because that's what we are designed for. But then, you know, just thinking about it, like the empowerment side of things, like we're looking at the positives. There's these negative sides of it, right? But the positive sides of it is from you know, people are making obscene amount of money where if
some
it's
are.
used correctly, some are, but if it was used correctly with the right mindset, is that, you know, to get what they need from that for a period of time. Is it a good, you know, could it be, is it good in that sense? But then it's the other negative impacts, I suppose. It's like there are some positives for some people, but the negative, I think, can outweigh that. in my view. That's how I kind of see it at the moment. Views of the same.
I have the opinion that in this less personal world, so people don't interact as much, and we've all, I think, I can definitely speak for myself, and when I say we all, I mean generally, lots of people will have been single for a period of time, and when you stop dating for a period of time, you then realize, I don't need to date. Like, I'm really comfortable with myself. Like, I'm really happy in my own space. I don't need anyone. I don't want anyone. But then we still have these primal needs to have sex and whatever. Like, we still have all of those needs. And is it a way that people go, well, I don't have to take someone on a date and spend 100 quid, 50 quid, 200 quid, whatever it might be on dates. I don't have to potentially get rejected. Again, this swipe culture. I'm really attracted to that one, but I'm not attracted to those people. So societal sort of the way we now date. So they can maybe speak to the one they think is attractive, get that attention back, and it's ticking a box. And I feel like that's the sad reality of what dating today is. Like, people want generally who they can't attain. A lot of us do. Most people try and punch above our weight, don't we? Well, definitely as a man, anyway. I can say that. And then, sorry, I've just made myself laugh there. And then the challenge of is rejection. Do we just need to address how people build meaningful relationships today? I think that's probably the root cause of how to overcome it. But then that's not quick. That's not easy. It's not a spend 20 quid and you're getting a bit of fun. Like, generally, that's what the challenge is.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's it. It's like you said, it's not quick, it's not easy. And again, as humans, we are literally hardwired to fear rejection. So thousands of years ago, when we were in like our tribes and whatnot, if we were kicked out of our tribe, chances are we're going to get killed by a bloody animal, saber-toothed tiger, whatever it is. So our brains, that is still subconsciously, we still have that fear as if we were living thousands of years ago, that primal fear of rejection. So if someone comes along and they're like, hey, if you subscribe to this amazing thing called Onlyfans just for a $5 a month, you can knock one out, you're not going to have any fear of rejection, it's going to be fabulous. Or you can pay for a prostitute, or you can go on this dating website and you can swipe right, swipe left, or whichever one it is. And if you don't like the person, or if they don't like you, you can block them. It removes that fear of rejection. But like you said, it's just because it's easier doesn't mean that in the long term it's better for us.
Yeah.
It's like, it's, makes you think of like the addiction side, but like you said before, the dopamine hit that they get from that external validation with others. Like, is it turning into an addiction? Does it turn into addiction? Like I said before,
100%.
The financial aspect as well. Like, does it become a way? Does that end? Is that what they're doing to themselves? Addicting themselves to this lifestyle, this way of living that ultimately in the long run can have a massive impact on them personally.
Yeah, I've seen. So there's a podcast in America called the Whatever Podcast, and that they generally have a lot of girls on there who are from OnlyFans and things. And what they always say is, well, I'm making loads of really good money. Why would I want to go and work in an office 9 to 5 for 50 grand a month, $50,000 a year, even $50,000 a year, when I can make that a month just taking my clothes off? I'm happy going to the beach and take my clothes off. It's only taking 2 other items of clothes off, and I'm making a yearly salary and a monthly salary, and I can live the life that I absolutely want. But what, to Misha's point there, the fear is, but then what? Like, what are you going to do in 10 years' time? What are you like? What purpose is that giving you?
Yeah. it's not. I don't think it's something that they may have, they might not have. But yeah, when that goes, that validation, or they get a little bit older, hopefully, like you said, in that mindset side of things, that they've set themselves up for that. But in not all, that might not be the case. And seeing that, obviously, looking back on kind of young minds, knowing that they can make that kind of money, like through something where they don't have to do the traditional route, is so scary. And knowing, thank God forbid, my daughter doesn't have social media. She hates me, I know, but I don't allow her to.
How old is your daughter for not having social media? Like, when would you let? She's 14. When would you let her have social media?
Yeah, and this is obviously, this age is massively instrumental in kind of shaping her, what she sees, relationships forming, that sort of thing. It's a really, and I mean, all of her friends have it, and it can be, it's not something that I want to say no to, but I know the negative impacts that it could have. But yeah, if my daughter was to see that, like, knowing that that's a way she could make a living, like, it's just absolutely bizarre. And how that, and knowing they're so young, I mean, yourself at that age, you think you're invincible, don't you? Like,
well, we all did, didn't we? We all did. We thought we knew everything.
Like, you think absolutely everything. So when I'm saying that, she's like, oh yeah, whatever. But no, you're actually being molded into everything you're seeing. Do you not, like, your surrounding environment, what you're watching, what you're seeing, everything physically and around you in your space, can shape you into the person you're going to be. So honestly, it's such and obviously you're pregnant, Dionne. So I can imagine the thought of all of this sometimes will be like, but yeah, it's just
it's terrifying. And I think one of the harmful things as well is, like, let's face it, platforms like Onlyfans now are incredibly saturated. So a lot of people, I imagine, because I did this before. So I was doing webcamming before Onlyfans was a thing. Mine was on a different website. And I'll never forget, I'd never even heard of webcamming. There's a few different reasons why I ended up going into it. But we'll save that for another time, because it'll take a while to tell a story. But anyways, I remember seeing, it was a girl that I went into school with, and she was always on Facebook, and she was always posting these like designer bags and going on these trips and stuff. And I messaged her once. I was like, do you mind me asking, like, what do you actually do? Because she never kind of said what her job was or anything like that. And she was like, oh, it's amazing. I'm a webcam model. And I was like, what is that? I've never heard of it before. This was, God, what was it, like 8 years ago or something now? And she was like, you just talk to men and you just have conversations with them. And I was like, and she was like, I make like $2,000 a week. I was like, so all you do is so fucking naive. I was so naive. And I was like, so all you do is talk to men? And she was like, yes, sometimes you don't even have to have your voice on, you just type. I was like, that sounds amazing. Right, sign me up for that. So I ended up moving back to Newcastle. I had a business, like successful business and everything, but I was like, nah, I'm going to burn it to the ground. Like, this sounds amazing. Within 5 minutes of logging on to the webcam for the first time, I very quickly realized you're going to be doing a hell of a lot more than just talking to people if you actually want to see those credits and that money going up and up and up. And this is the thing with things like OnlyFans. It's so saturated now. Maybe when it first came out, you could get away with making great money with your knickers and your bra and that still on. But that's not enough now. Like, people want to be getting more for the money. Like, can you remember Playboy magazine? Like, back in the day, that was like the porno, and it was so globally successful. The amount of money that company made was insane. Now, I don't even know, is it still running now? Because it's like, it's not enough. Like, people want to see more than just women in bikinis. It's like, it's all hardcore now, because people have access to basically anything they want at their fingertips. So the majority of people, I know some people make lots of money selling pictures of their feet and stuff, but so many people who go into
that still blows my mind, by the way. That will always blow my mind.
I know. I know.
Like, why?
Yes. So many people, they might think, do you know what? If I join OnlyFans, I'm just going to talk to men and just maybe get my boobies out and cover them and da. The reality is they're going to be doing a lot more hardcore stuff if they want to make any decent money. And then that's the shit that they then have to live with after that.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. And as it becomes more saturated, like that's the point. So we are probably already at the beginning of the end of OnlyFans. In reality, it is like for anything once it makes itself mainstream is generally the end of it because
it will,
as you said, it's so saturated that people aren't going to be spending £10 a month for something average because there's average out there all of the time. The people who want to pay for something extreme.
More,
and then what's more extreme than porn? So like what is and that's the fear. If you then are indoctrinating society in a way where the most taboo sex type things are readily available for £10 a month, and everyone becomes almost like not immune, but like desensitized was definitely the phrase I was looking for to that type of content. Where does it then go? And that's the fear. So me as a parent, and I have a young son, and I think of like younger people in society growing up. Like, what does it mean for sex if sex doesn't become something that's meaningful? Because that's what it's become. It's becoming a way just to make money, like, with things like OnlyFans. And then how do you teach young people to be respectful around sex? I remember we had a guest on called Professor, or was she a doctor or professor? She was either a doctor or professor, Emily Setti, and she came on. She spoke all around sexual consent. So she was saying, post-COVID, there's been considerable more. I believe this is what she said, if I remember right. There's considerably more like sexual assaults, but equally, young people are having way less actual sex, and relationships are on the decline. People are having less babies, all those sorts of things, like young people, and it's all because we're losing in society the ability to build that meaningful relationship where physical and sex is really important. And OnlyFans takes that away, because if your needs are always met by something not real, when you meet someone real, maybe you're not as attracted, or you're not as turned on, or like you don't want to pursue them, or whatever that might be.
Unrealistic expectations, isn't it? Like unrealistic expectations of what love is, what connection is. And like because of that, taking that away, and unfortunately that it's made it transaction. That is really the fear. Like, and like you said there, that's how bad is that, in a sense that, you know, children is on the decline, people having relationships is on the decline. What's that going to do to us as a society in the longer term? You know, how did it get to? I often think, like, I know we touched on this before.
We were talking about this actually, weren't we? Yeah.
How do we get?
Can we try and do the timeline? Can we try and do what we think the timeline was?
Yeah. So, like, I don't.
You said teletext first, didn't you?
Well, I did say the
I remember that.
Well, yeah, it started with teletext, but like it was sex was such a taboo thing. You know, there was one woman would be with a man for years, so it was like, you know, that kind of sexual encounter wasn't. I mean, it would have been going on, but it really wasn't mainstream at all. Was it? It wasn't mainstream. It was like my dirty little secret on teletext. You know what I'm saying? Like people would just be texting like on a whim.
You know what's funny, right? This is a really serious conversation, but because we're children, we say these things and we have to laugh because we're just like I have to say this before we carry on the conversation. How awkward was I a little bit before? I was like, I'm not sure I really want to have this conversation. like it's something we should be having in society, right? We do need to talk about these things, because if we don't, the problem gets worse because it becomes taboo again, and like we just allow these things to happen when it shouldn't be allowed to happen without some form of, hang on, is this actually the way we should be going? But yeah, I just wanted to laugh at the fact that you laughed because I felt really awkward too.
But yeah, so how did it? I know we'll do the timeline in a minute, but how did it? How did it become? Why have they monetized it in that way? They've made it so mainstream.
It's so
Like,
easy.
Is it just? It is so easy, but again, because of the financial aspect. But when did that change? Like, I can't even. Do when it becomes so mainstream? So there was the teletext. Then what?
But then there was always
Can you remember Babe Station?
I was about
And
to
then
say
there
that.
would be at a certain time, and you'd get like the 5 or 10 minute preview.
Yeah.
And then I remember, like, I would wake up, my mom had gone to bed, and I would wake up, and I was like, I'll get to see boobies, and it was like this crazy wild thing. And now it's so normal, like that's not a big thing. But yeah, back then it was like, 10-minute preview, like we might get to see some boobs. How crazy is that?
Yeah, I have to be honest. That was my first experience of seeing boobs was Babe Station. I think I was probably like 14 or something, 13, 14, 13-ish, like proper boobs, like real women boobs, where you you. I didn't want to keep going down that conversation, but where you. Fucking hell, I'm digging a hole here, aren't I? Where, just keep digging here, Lou. Where you parents were out or whatever, and you have your mates stay over, and you're like, "Oh, this is so cool." But also like American Pie. American Pie was my first. Like, it was it Nadia? It was definitely Nadia. I'm asking. I definitely know it was Nadia. Like 100%.
Was.
I really fancied her in the first American Pie. And it's one of them where it used to be such a thing, like seeing stuff like that in movies. And now again, it's just not even a thing now, is it? Like, yeah, you see it.
Yeah.
So I think it went teletext. There was obviously Playboy before all of that. I think Playboy was pre-teletext. Teletext.
Yeah, I think that was like 60s and 70s Playboy, wasn't it?
Yeah,
maybe. I don't remember the teletext thing, so I'm going to take your word for it. Maybe I was just an angel child and never.
I mean, I never accessed it. I'll be honest, but I didn't know it existed. I did know it existed.
I didn't know it existed till you said it in the pre-chat. I'm actually being serious.
Am I my question that? Is it true? Well, someone in the comments, if anybody's there, that let us know.
I'm sure it was. Was it? Yeah, was it like a text thing? Like you literally.
Yeah,
sure
sure. But yeah,
right.
From there, and then obviously there was always brothels and things, but yeah, where did it go from?
But I think sex work, like actual like sex workers, has always been a thing. But it's almost like as technology has evolved, developed, and we've gone from everything being again hidden, not commonly known. It's even like social media has made everything accessible, hasn't it? So you can now market yourself as a sex worker and make, instead of having to sleep with 100 men in a week or whatever to make your money, you could create one video with one person and sell it to 100 people and make the same amount of money potentially. Like that's the way it or sell it to 1,000 people or whatever. And like that's the way that they flipped the model. This is my marketer brain. They flipped the model of how to make money for doing sex.
Yeah,
which is crazy.
Yeah, but I think as well, like as people with the technology we've got, it is where we are again. We're like, and we've always been like this. We've always been wired for more. We always want more. That's why for thousands and thousands of years we've invaded each other's lands, slaughtered people because we want what that person has. Nothing's ever enough for humans. And even with technology, like this AI, I mean, it's amazing and it's also bloody terrifying. Like, where the hell is that end up? Are we going to be having this real life bloody Terminator situation going on? It's like, where does it end? We are constantly on the hunt for more.
Yeah, I agree, and that is the fear with the way this culture's going.
Yeah,
like, genuinely, that's the bit that scares me the most. It's not necessarily, and I probably shouldn't say this having a health podcast, but it's not necessarily as much about the impact I think it has on the people, because they're consenting adults choosing to do that.
Yeah.
I'm saying they are. I imagine everyone who is doing it is that there probably is cases where people aren't, and I suppose that's a completely different conversation in itself. But if people are choosing to do it, then that's their choice, and that they can grow as a person or whatever and change their mind in the future. But it's where do people then go to get seen? And I think that's what your post was about as much as anything. Like the Bonnie Blues, for example, it's gone from people sleeping with people or creating content on to sell as a subscription service online to having to do crazy things, whether it's true or not, and we can talk about that, for attention. Like the headline was she was going to sleep with 1,000 men in a day. Well, Lily Phillips slept with 100 people in a day, didn't she? I think that was the first one, and she did a documentary, and I only seen a clip of it. And afterwards, there was the scene. It went in our chat, didn't it? And she looked like mentally, like it looked like real trauma, didn't it?
Oh yeah, you could just see it in her face. Yeah, that goes to show like it's the emotional impact that it has on somebody behind closed doors. You know, it looked like to me. I know we were talking before about whether it was true or not, but to me, she looked empty, like a soul had actually come out, like actually come away from her as she was doing this with these men that she's had no kind of connection with. Whereas Bonnie, on the other hand, you look at her posts and she is absolutely thrilled about the whole situation, you know, and sometimes you don't feel where negativity impacts her from her post, like you were saying. It's kind of she's on that hype, and it's kind of she's actually in with it, you know. So yeah, I think.
Do we believe she did? She slept with 1,000 men. She said 12 hours, didn't she?
This is what I'm saying. I really don't
Where's
know.
the maths on that?
I'm sure it was 24 hours, but it was something like 1,017, and I'm sure does it work out as something like 40 seconds per person? So that's like literally an in out. Like obviously, there must have been toilet breaks. Like she must have had to have a bit of like water at some point. So, but
I can't
even
comprehend
so,
it.
whether or not, yeah, it just and like how ouch. Just ouch. That is that is a lot of cock.
one out. Like it's just
but also from a man's perspective, how are you ready to perform? Like we don't have to go into the full details there, but like I don't understand that because that's not something that would make me want to. So like
exactly. Like you're waiting in a queue and there's like this camera crew and you're like getting yourself ready. I do not know, but whether or not it happened, the fact it's been so highly publicized, and I think she says she makes something like, is it 600 grand a month? Now to any impressionable young girl, young woman is just going to see that, or a lot of them are going to see that and be like, oh my God, that's all you have to do. Especially if your childhood, let's say you have been, and I think this is one of the reasons that I got into the work myself. So I didn't know my dad growing up. And my mom was in, because she was an alcoholic. She's been in recovery for years now. But when I was younger, the relationships she'd been in with men were very, very toxic. These were very, very damaged, toxic men who would come into our house. It was very unsafe and chaotic. So I'd always had a warped view of men, and I would do anything because I never felt wanted. I never felt loved. I would literally do anything to feel validated and chosen. So if you've already got that mindset as a young girl, and then you're seeing some gorgeous girl, because Bonnie is beautiful, saying like, do you know what, all you have to do is sleep with men and you can make hundreds of thousands a month. I mean, so many people, like I said, the girl that I went to school with, when I was like, that all you do is speak to men, like sign me up. It's appealing because and there's even going to be that small part in your brain, and it might even be subconscious, of like, wow, 1,000 men want to sleep with me. Like,
Yeah.
God,
Yeah, I never
they're
looked at it like that.
choosing me. It's like, it's gonna kind of fulfill that subconscious need, like whenever, if you didn't get that validation growing up.
Yeah. You know, thinking back whether, you know, we're talking about how whether we think it's right or whether we think it's wrong, you know, for Bonnie, like you say, it can be a breeding ground for those who obviously are in that mindset, like say, have got that trauma prior to that. They might be completely attracted into this this way of life. And I suppose whether or not she was telling the truth or not about that, it's the ethical standpoint, isn't it, for the young minds and for everybody else, people that, you know, do struggle with those sorts of things. So yeah, it's like thinking of those things, but just to think whether or not she is actually truthful or not. And
I'm not sure she is. I'm gonna be honest.
yeah.
Whether
There's
she is
been-
or isn't doesn't matter though. It doesn't matter. For this
It's
conversation, it doesn't matter.
The ethical impact on everybody else that's kind of seeing and observing those sorts of things. Yeah.
It does
Oh.
feel since firstly, I think This Morning were wrong for putting her on mainstream TV. I feel
Yeah.
like that was a mistake, if I'm
Yeah.
honest. But then it feels like her and Lily Phillips were like everywhere on social media,
Mhm.
and then this has
Every
happened.
still now.
Yeah, but it does feel like they've dropped. It doesn't. Like, I haven't seen them since that
Yeah.
1,000 thing, and it was like everything was being shared on social media, like them
Yeah.
talking about potentially doing it. And I wonder if they've potentially either pulled back because they would have potentially had a lot of hate, or the platforms or society is pushing them out. I don't know. I could be wrong, and you guys could be seeing them all over. I haven't been on my phone as much, but it does feel like there's not as much of them the last month or so, last few weeks.
Yeah. Do you know what you just touched on there, like the safety, the implications, the safety side of things, and the hate that she would receive? Because I mean, she'll be known everywhere now. So can you imagine just going into doing day-to-day life and going into these places? But she could the threat she could get, or the women that she could, you know, could come up to her. Like, where does that end? Like, how does she deal with something of that nature? You know, from that grand scheme of things, how exposed she is at the minute. And the young girl as well. It's Lily, was it? Lily. Yeah.
Yeah, I seen an interview with her. So she went on a podcast,
Mhm.
and she was asked, like, do you not feel like you're letting yourself down and all this sort of thing? And she but again, you don't know if they're acting or not. But she said, no, I'm not smart enough to understand the emotional impact that it has on me. And I was like,
Oh.
no, well, then that just feels like you're being taken advantage of to a degree, if that's not the case. But surely she is smart enough, because they are, in modern society, they're almost up there with like your Andrew Tate type people, where everyone's talking about them.
Mm-hmm.
I think both of them come across, I mean, I don't really know the backgrounds, but both of them come across as like pretty well-educated women who know exactly what they're doing, and they're incredible, whether you love them or hate them.
Yeah,
They're
they
incredible
what they're
on the
doing,
market.
they smashed it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think because what they've done is they are like your traditional, really good-looking, Instagram type, attractive, like model type girls who sound well spoken, and that's part of their brand, isn't it? They don't come across like someone who would do
They're not
those things.
chavvy.
Yeah, they're not chavvy. Yeah, like they don't come across like they would need to do this, and maybe that's part of it, because they come across like they absolutely love it and they want to do it.
Yeah, like the good girl next door. I definitely think you're right, and that it is absolutely a part of their brand, because let's face it, like there are going to be so many, though I feel awful saying it, but so many like the chavvy, like the stereotypical like chavs, who there's so many of them doing it, but part of their success with Lily and Bonnie is probably because, I mean, they look like they've been to bloody private school for a start. They just look very well to do, well spoken, beautiful women.
Yeah. And it's whether or not they, like you say, playing on that, found that niche in the market and completely just using that to their advantage. And that one aspect, it's like that is, like you said, clever, bright. They're kind of moving towards that with, you know, intention, but it's the negative impacts that it has on this whole scenario.
So,
Yeah.
question to both of you then, because
Hmm.
I can't answer this because I am a man. So, for women, do you think this type of stuff is a good thing or a bad thing?
Shall I go first?
Yeah, you can go first.
Either.
Oh yeah, 100% a bad thing. I think the whole empowerment thing is a load of bullshit. And
Don't mince your words.
yeah, it is. Like, do you know what? I used to do it myself. I was like, this is so empowering. I'm making so much money from these idiots. I'm just taking it all from them super fast. What is empowering about selling yourself, whether you're doing it online or in person? What is empowering about selling your body like a piece of fucking meat? Like you're selling yourself for someone else's pleasure. They don't care about your pleasure. It's all about theirs. That's not empowering at all. All it's doing is feeding that patriarchy. So yeah, it's like it is so damaging in my opinion. And obviously I'm having a daughter and it's terrifying to think that she might be exposed to this type of stuff in the media. And this is another thing I've noticed. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, right? But Facebook never used to be like this, and I want to talk about it. I might do a post or a blog on it at some point, but I am noticing rage bait is just filling my feed at the moment. The last few months on Facebook, there's so much rage bait and hatred towards women and single mothers, and I don't know if it's because I like a few like bare knuckle pages and UFC and stuff, so maybe the algorithm thinks I'm a man, but it's kind of like it's if it thinks I'm a man, it's like Facebook and social media is trying to condition me to hate women, and it's everywhere. Like one of them I saw the other day is something like what is it like a single mom is low-key a huge red flag, or a single mom with more than 2 baby dads is like a disgrace. What do you think? And it's just thousands of comments, and there's so much of this rage bait filling our feeds, and maybe women are getting it about men as well. And it's like the media is really, social media is really trying its hardest to make men and women hate each other. It's everywhere. It's so harmful. Like some of the comments are absolutely awful, and no matter how many times I click on like hide this post, it's just rage bait after rage bait everywhere. Like, have you guys noticed that?
I haven't seen a lot of that. I mean, what did I see the other day? It's a poll. I think it was a page actually, a page where they're putting on who they've been dating. And then like shaming people, saying, watch out for this guy, watch out for, there's a one for women, there's a one for man. I'm thinking, what on earth is going on here? Like just that in itself is rage bait, because some of the stuff that you do see on that. But yeah, it's just, it's so scary in thinking where this could go. So yeah, I mean, I know we've touched on that before, that's positive and negative, but for me, so negative in a sense that, like you said, people, birth rates are coming down, you know, people are losing that emotional intimacy, and that, you know, there's man and woman, how we create life, the emotional aspect, which is what it means to be human. We're actually losing that ability to connect with somebody on an emotional level. And I think that's what makes us feel human. That's what makes us who we are. And without that, it can become, I think, in a lonely existence, like you say, it can become a dopamine hit for the validation. It's just all round. For me, it's I just don't think there's any positives. I mean, like you say, good on these people if they're making use of something that's in at the moment to make money. And yes, you know, if you're for that, you're making that decision, then do that and go ahead and do that. But I just think it needs to, I think there needs to be some sort of intervention in terms of how, especially for kids, like how can we stop them from seeing this? There needs to be a bit more controls, I think, on how we do that. I mean, that's a different story.
No,
But,
that's where I was going to take the conversation, if I'm honest.
yeah.
So obviously Trump's got into power. Elon Musk is close to Trump, and the idea is that anyone can share anything free opinion, free
Yeah,
speech, all those sorts of things, right? We shouldn't be restricting. No one has the right to restrict all those sorts of things. Got it. But the challenge we've got is when you unleash this type of content onto social media, and social media doesn't restrict for children,
Yeah.
that's grooming.
Yeah.
It's grooming,
Yeah.
even if it's not intentional grooming through a man grooming a child or a woman grooming a child. It's an industry grooming a child into a certain way of sexual beliefs or sexual standards, those sorts of things. And there's a reason why 18 plus is a thing for things like porn, and because children are easily influenced. And I honestly believe that social media has so much to all of the big platforms. They can't just make the billions of pounds. They have to start taking accountability for what they're doing. You should be able. So again, I work for a business that we have some elements of cybersecurity, and we can put things like parental controls on. You can do it through your broadband, do it through your mobile, you can do it through your web search and things. But there just needs to be more done, because you could go on to Facebook and someone could share it. You could go onto Twitter. Twitter's like the worst. I think we're all aware of that, or X as it is now. Like every other video. It's weird. Some of my friends say every other video is something really bad. Mine actually isn't, but I think it's because I haven't been caught in that like dodgy algorithm loop of once you've looked at a load of them. But once you have seen it, and obviously if you're a child and the first time you see it, you're gonna watch, because you're like, oh, that's new. I haven't seen that, and then the next thing you know, you're down the rabbit hole, aren't you? And then everything is going to be that. So yeah, they definitely have to do more.
They definitely do. And I think, I don't know if you know this, but I think because we're in at that age where you see everything online, you're seeing everything online, but some of the stuff, like, people believe everything they see. Everything they see. So this, I know, you know yourself, I've seen, I don't know this, but Barbara O'Neill, some of her stuff, and I was looking at some of that, and me granda was saying to me,
Who's this? Sorry?
That's been copied before, like some of the stuff, and you think, I love the holistic side of stuff, so I'm looking at this, and I'm like, oh, well, I use that. Looked it up, and some of it isn't, like, some of it is just absolutely not true. So you've just got to be so, what you're seeing online. So if we're like that, then the young minds, like, everything they see, they're gonna see it as truth. And
it's almost like there's too much out there today, isn't there?
Yeah, there's just too much out there. So it's like, how do they control it? Yes, there can be freedom of speech, but there's got to be something like an intervention to try and reduce that, the impact that it's having in the long run for young minds and that sort of thing. So yeah, it's a wonder to see how it's going to pan out, because I mean, how much has it developed in the last 10 years? It
feels like Onlyfans is the last 3 years, doesn't it? Ish.
Yeah.
It could be longer. I don't know. But where does it end up? Because no one's stopping it. Like, society is doing nothing about. If anything, it's just becoming more, isn't it? So what happens? I don't know where it goes.
Interesting to see where. It's scary, isn't it? It's a scary thought in the same sense.
Do you think that? So I'm sure we all have our opinions on the school curriculum here, but do you think things like this need to be talked about in school or not talked about?
Absolutely, I do. Yeah, I think absolutely. I think it should be. That's a different subject. Obviously, the sex education in school. They don't really go into anything what it really means. Like, that's another thing. So it could stem from that. Ultimately, they go through it and make it this transaction. Oh yeah, you have sex, and it's like this transactional thing. They actually don't talk about the real meaning behind sexual intercourse and what all of that, what that can do for them. So I've lost my train of thought.
No, I agree though with the school curriculum. I feel like it's so dated, and they are still massively focusing on the wrong things. Like seriously, both of you, how many things can you remember that you learned in school that you like use in like today? It's
Yeah.
It's always like
ridiculous.
algebra
The
and
thing is,
pi and whatever. Yeah.
exactly that, man. But like, what about the relationship with yourself, your relationship with others, confidence, self-worth, how to set healthy boundaries, how to look after money? But we're not
Yeah.
taught any of that, because
No.
let's face it, the more like the stronger we are within ourselves, the higher our self-worth, the more we know about money and the more financially literate we are. The system
Yeah.
doesn't like that, because then
No.
it's not as easy to control and manipulate us then. So of course the schools don't bloody teach that, and I don't think they're gonna.
No,
No,
it's,
me neither.
it's I was talking about this the other week. Like it's still set up in a day and age from when, like, the Industrial Revolution, when we were set up to be workers, we were cogs in a wheel. When there was no, at that point. So when you look back, actually thinking about that, they didn't contribute and think about the emotional element back then. We were just workers. That's how we did that. But now that is changing. But yeah, no, it's complete the whole system, what we learn, it doesn't teach you anything about life. Like, I remember leaving, I don't know if you guys are leaving school, and I thought to myself, oh, what do I do? Like, they don't explore your talents, your strengths, about you, how you work with your own self, like you said, self-love, your self-worth. They don't look at any of that element. So you leave, and like I say, I remember the feeling leaving, thinking, oh, like, what do I do now? Like, what do I do now?
Who am I? Who the hell am I?
It's still a continuous journey, that one. Because it just can't always change it. But yeah. Leaving school is just like, where, what do they actually teach them? What do they teach them to leave? Like, what do you use from school other than fighting for your grades and the stress that I put them through sometimes as well for all of that sort of for the grades?
And in reality, none of our education mattered if you once you got to the next thing. So like GCSEs didn't matter if you went into A levels didn't matter if you go into a degree doesn't matter when you get a job. And then once you got a job, none of your education matters. Like, because then in reality, unless you're in a profession, like you're a doctor, a lawyer, whatever, where you need to know that certain thing, yes, it gives you knowledge, which can help you be better at your job and all those sorts of things. But in reality, once you get to work, it's just how good are you at your job? And then how good can you be at your job to get promoted or the next job? It generally doesn't really matter. And I probably shouldn't say that, having spent like 7-8 years in education, but it's true. I really believe that. So other point here, and it's really interesting, the pair of you have just said about school and things. And you've both been on a bit of a health journey, both sort of your mental health and probably your physical health too, I'm sure. How do you feel you've changed from school to sort of now with your health, and what have been like the key things for you that have helped you overcome that? So if I talk really honestly, for me, all of my failures. So if we're talking about parents, kids, leaving school, not knowing who you are, whatever, is not being fearful of failing. And when I was younger, I used to really think like I had to do everything perfect all of the time, couldn't make a mistake, and if I did, it was the worst thing in the world. But then you hit, like, I'm 32 now, and I think every one of my mistakes are the reason why I'm a better person. So that's one thing. But I had to like hit my lowest points of my life for me to go, now I go on that journey. Because I don't know about you two. Other people have like tried to help me, reach out to me, whatever, when I was low. But until I decided to do that work myself, I never did it. So again, that conversation slightly off topic from tonight, but where you were saying school didn't really equip you for life, I wanted just to bring that angle in.
Yeah, I'd say I'll let you go first, John, if you want to.
No, you go. Go ahead.
I thought you were about to speak there. I thought I'd cut you off. I'd say for me, is coming. How next bit? Always looking. I think from a young age, leaving school, everything. I was always looking externally. So I was always looking externally for things. And it took me a long time to realize that, whether that be a job, a relationship, a feeling, that sort of thing. I was always looking externally, and I think, coming back home to myself, I think that was one of the biggest things that I've learned, and I think there's nothing external that can bring you or has been able to bring me a feeling of, wholeness, but it's all been internally. Obviously, having my daughter, that's like a wholeness feeling, but I mean, in a sense where it's got to come from you. You can't look externally for things. So I'd say that's one of the biggest things that I learned, and I've done that through movement. I've done that through, eating well, being out in nature. So just coming back home myself, I've been still meditation and that sort of stuff. So I'd say that's been one of the biggest things for me. Like I say, you're not ever taught that. I think it was a lesson I learned on my own. A lot of people like that, not everybody is aware of those things. I think people do look external for a lot of things to give them, whether that's that dopamine hit, that sense of fulfillment, when actually it's here with you. So yeah, I'd say that's one of the biggest things for me.
Love that. I'll be honest, I didn't really start doing any inner work until I was about 27, 28. And I genuinely believe that life was something that happened to me. I was very much stuck in that victim mentality. I didn't have any self-awareness whatsoever. I didn't have any emotional intelligence. I was very, very much like just a big walk-in trauma response. And my identity was like my childhood wounds, and I never realized the power that we have over our own minds. I genuinely believe that I was this unlucky person, always destined miserable and skinned, and that's just the way it was. You have some people who are happy, and then you have people like me, and that's just it. I've always had courage, I will say that. So I've always, I started my first business when I was 21. That did well. So I've always had courage. I've always had balls. I've always had work ethic. I love working. So I've always had those two things, but I never knew who the hell I was. Hence doing these different businesses or jumping from job to job, even like moving bloody house constantly. So it wasn't really until I started, and like you said as well, like external validation. I would do anything to be liked. I changed my accent. Whatever you like, I like. Whatever you don't like, I don't like. I would just mold and contort and distort myself just to fit in and just to be like. When I started the inner work, that's when I really realized just how much power we have over ourselves, and that we get to choose our reality. And it's been absolutely huge, and it's been an incredible journey since. The healing journey has not been linear whatsoever. Like, I still now have ups and downs, but it's been the most incredible journey ever, because from where I was, say, from like when I was 26, and that's when I was doing that's when I was like in the sex work, from there to where I am now, I'm just I feel like a completely different person. And it's like I said, it's not been linear. It's not been easy. There's been times it's been so uncomfortable. That's certainly not been that instant gratification that we fucking love as humans. And it's been very difficult at times, but it's been the best thing I have ever done. So much so that I always thought I never ever wanted kids. I was like, I hate kids. I'm not maternal at all in the slightest. And then it was about a year and a half ago, like I just started getting this feeling of like, do you know what if? And then it just started to like grow, and now I am so excited to be a mother, and especially to be a mother to a girl. And I know that my beliefs around never wanting children and thinking they bring nothing but misery, they were never my beliefs. They were someone else's. Since I've been on this healing journey, I've discovered the real Dionne actually wants to be a mother. That's the real Dionne. I never knew who she was.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, that is so interesting. And so when you think about So we're gonna this sort of last section of the pod is all about the development of like becoming the best version of ourselves, and I'm as much talking about, because I know, Dionne, you talk about some of this stuff, hence bringing it in, of like being the best you, and Misha, we've spoke about this stuff quite a lot.
Yeah.
So when you both think about the journey that you've been on and you sit where you are today, what are the key things that you do in your life to try and be that best version of you? Like, is it being active? Is it meditating? Is it reading? I might be giving away some of the answers here, but is it some of these things that like that open up your mind, or give you peace, or I don't know. It's because I think what we don't do a lot in society here, and I certainly didn't do it until I started doing it. Like I didn't know about it. Is we tell people they should, oh, well, just sort your life out. No, you'll be fine. Just stop drinking alcohol, or like stop going out, or stop gambling, or whatever that might be. Yeah, but how? Why?
So for me, it's about asking yourself the right questions. Asking yourself the right questions. So, and that's not always easy. It's not always pretty. Like you say, that's, you know, you go pretty deep into that, but exploring the right, you know, asking yourself the right questions and dealing with what kind of comes up in terms of living your best life. Like, you know, you can be asking yourself the question, how did I feel when I was doing that? And for me, paying attention to my emotions. So understanding what makes me happy, what is it that brings excitement to me when I'm doing it, what is it that makes me feel sad, what is it that makes me feel anxious, you know, and aligning me things that I like to do. So if I'm wanting to feel that certain way, like in terms of self-development, is aligning the things that I'm doing with my passions, the things that I'm interested in, and not doing so much of the other things. So it takes commitment, and like I say, it's not always easy, but I think asking yourself the right questions and focusing and align your actions towards things that you know are good for you in that sense, and you'll know that through creating the awareness by asking those questions. Sorry, you'll create that awareness, and I think that awareness is key. In that, like I say, it can be negative, but it can feel negative, but it outweighs it once you do have that awareness, because you can't not unsee it then either. So it always, you know, and I think that's can be hurtful.
And would you say that's self-awareness though?
Yeah.
That's
Pardon?
Self-awareness though, that's the key.
Yes, self-awareness, and that you know that through asking yourself the right questions. And yeah, that I think that's one of the key things for me.
Yeah, I totally agree. Totally agree. And I would say one of those questions to ask yourself is, what is it that I'm running away from? Like you can, so I had this friend, right? And she was constantly changing antidepressants, just saying like nothing's working. So she was like changing and going on different antidepressants like every few months. She was like, nothing's working. I'm still miserable. But the reality was she was staying up till 7 a.m. on cocaine and alcohol binges, eating she'd go days without eating, but then when she was eating, it was takeaways. Like no amount of pill is gonna like magically fix everything. What is it you're actually running away from? And there's a lot of stuff, like I'll not go into because that's her business, but like it's stuff from when she was a kid that she still hasn't addressed, that she's running away from. Once she started addressing that, she's a completely different person now. And like I said, the healing journey, it's not always linear, but yeah, what is it you're running away from? The most common thing that I work with my clients on is this feeling of, I've got another one tomorrow, not feeling good enough. So many people just have this deeply seated belief of, I'm not good enough, and we will do anything to run away from that feeling. So if you can start addressing the root cause of your issues, whether it's I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable, I'm not wanted, I'm not this, I'm not that, once you can address the root cause of that, then it's like a domino effect, and just everything else starts to get better. And it's not like, I do an amazing thing called rapid transformational therapy, and it is rapid in many ways, but I'm never going to say to my clients, if you just have a session with me and give me X amount of money, I'm going to make all your problems disappear. I've done a shitload of inner work on myself, and I still really, really struggle some days. But where I was to where I am now, the difference is absolutely massive. And it is just like, what are you running away from?
Yeah.
Ask yourself that first, and then you can start to work on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know that point about your friend, and you say about your friend who was drinking all night and whatever? I wouldn't say I was ever that bad. Like I never was. But so I've been posting recently about quitting alcohol, and even last year. So I've been doing this podcast now for 2 years. So I have been doing the work properly for 2 years, right? Having real conversations, doing all the running, because that's what you do when you when you feel low. Every person I know seems to just take up running and sea dipping. So I've done all of the running and the sea dipping, right? Yeah, so I've climbed mountains. So I've climbed mountains, sea dipped, I've ran. Yeah, like I've done that. But even to a degree, right?
Yeah.
That is still. It feels like, on reflection, running away from my problems.
Yeah.
Like it's saying I'm going to do something instead of dealing with my thoughts. So while sea dipping is great fun and it's doing something hard and it makes you feel good because you've done something hard, or like going for a run feels good, and you might think a bit when you're running, but I'm not doing anything. I'm just running, and I'm fucking knackered, and I'm like I'm knackered and running. Like that's what it is. And then like doing those things, whilst they're positive things to do, and it replaces some of the dopamine hit of doing, like mine was addicted to gambling. That's what mine was. So it gives me some sort of dopamine hit until I really started addressing my behavior. So I was still drinking with all of this, and I'm a binge drinker. It would get to a Friday night or Saturday night or Sunday. Sunday afternoon was actually my worst, and I would sit in the pub all day Sunday drinking, and wake up on a Monday hungover as fuck because I wasn't dealing with my emotions. And I'd made a decision early December that I was going to start 1st of Jan or end of December. So in December, it just got progressively worse. The drinking instead of going home at 6, it was going home at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night on a Sunday. Because I was like, yeah, but I'm going to start. I'm going to start. And thankfully, I sit here today really grateful. I'm like, I feel really good because I'm doing the work. And a lot of that is journaling, it's thinking, it's like making real time for my brain to actually think about what is stressing me out. Why is it stressing me out? What can I do about it? What should I do about it? And the things that I should be doing, stop putting them off and just do them. And then suddenly my brain's free and I can think and I feel in control. And oddly, at 32, so Yaz, who does this podcast, I'm jumping slightly here, she sent me a video today and she said, I seen this video and it reminded me of you. And I watched it and it was definitely me. And I said to her today, and it was like 8 o'clock this morning or something, I said, for the first time in my life at 32, I actually feel in control of my life. Like I'm not doing the things that I should be doing or that people expect me to do. Every single thing I do in my life now, I choose it. Yeah. And it's really empowering. And it sounds so wishy-washy bullshit. It does, right? But I'm sat here going, I'm speaking to you two because I really want to. Like, after this, I'm going to do something that I really want to do. I'm not going to go and sit and talk to someone that I don't want to, or when you're on dating apps, messaging people for the sake of messaging people because you want some attention or whatever, like, or going to the pub just to drink away some feelings and emotions. So yeah, like, and I think where you say like the healing journey is not linear, it definitely hasn't been linear for me at all. But actually doing the work is the only way to do it. Like it's not running up mountains, sea dipping, any of that. It's not. It's actually doing the work.
The only way out is through.
Yeah, it is.
Creating your life on purpose. That's exactly what choosing.
Oh, what a phrase that is! Creating your life on purpose.
Creating your life on purpose with intention, so you know what you're doing, and you're doing that because you want to. And I think that's how you do change. That's how, and then you look back and you think, like, sometimes I was thinking about this today, actually, just like looking back when I'm thinking, oh, like, wow, like, just not realizing the shift that you've made in yourself, like to others it might not be massive, but to yourself, I'm like, oh, just how I handle things differently, and that's through just doing things, just doing life like the way I want to. But then things just, like this, I'm going to get a little bit spiritual here, but like synchronicities and things, I think, oh, but like
That
things
sounds like a nice word that I don't know what it is.
things just unfold naturally and in a good positive way when you do those things, the things that matter. I think, like you were saying, and doing everything on purpose.
Mm.
I like that, creating the life you want on purpose. That is like, I feel like, so I have one really bad tattoo from when I was 16, but I feel like that's a tattoo that I could potentially get. less of Lewis's really bad tattoo that he's regretted since the day he got it at 16 years old. But yeah.
Let's see it now. Where is it?
No, you'll never see it, thankfully. But you will. If we ever see it, you'll see it.
Oh, right. Okay.
It's one of them. God, it's thrown me there. So Dionne, I suppose this last little section. So you obviously support people with some of the challenges that they might have in life. This is the not embarrassing at all self-promotion bit that you get to do, which we have not prepped you on at all. So sorry for just putting you on the spot here. Of you getting to tell people what you do, where they can find you, those sorts of things.
Awesome. Yes.
Well. It doesn't have to be a one sentence thing.
So my thing is I help women break free from shame and just really, really own who they are, own their story, own who they are, and really, really live a life of purpose. So a lot of the people I work with, they're in like these high flying corporate careers. They're making the good money, they're doing the this or that, but they're bloody miserable and they're actually hiding behind so many masks. So I'm very, very good at helping people to just drop the masks, own who the hell they are, and actually do what lights them up. So my Instagram actually got disabled a few months ago, so I'm on a brand new one now. It is Dionne E. Slater. That is my new one. I think I've got like 90 followers on there at the minute. It was very, very annoying. And do you know what? Actually, LinkedIn is my main platform.
Yeah, that's how I know you from, is LinkedIn.
Yeah, I love LinkedIn. That is my jam. But yeah, man, just get in touch with me if there is anything at all I can help you with. I talk about very, very taboo, stigmatized topics. That is my thing, because silence fuels stigma. And the more we talk about this stuff, the less stigmatized it becomes. So yeah, that is it for me. I'm actually going to be taking a break from coaching for a while because I'm due in like a month and a bit. But I'll still be popping online as and when, and then starting up my coaching again once the kind of shock to the system of being a new mother, if it ever starts.
I was about to say, when are you expecting that to end?
Maybe never.
Yeah.
I have no idea what I'm getting myself into.
Oh, yeah. Amazing.
No, that's absolutely amazing. And honestly, thank you so much for coming on. This was definitely a topic. I'm so glad we've had it. But before, I was like, shit.
What am I
and when Misha said she was coming on as well, I was so happy. Because can you imagine just awkward me, or me and some of the lads? They're just not going to be good at it. That's the thing. I'm the most. Callum might have done okay, but everyone's a bit like, lads aren't great at talking about sex. See, we can't even say it loud. So it's one of them.
You did amazing. You should be proud of yourself.
Thank you. Oh, I am. I am really proud of myself for that. I'm going to give myself a pat on the back after. But, no, thank you very much to Dionne for coming on, and Misha, obviously, for co-hosting. Before we go, is there anything else you want to add? I don't think there will be.
No.
Okay. Yeah. So if you are a listener, you can obviously go and connect, follow, and catch up with Dionne outside of this episode. On Wednesday, we do have Hayley on, where we're going to talk all things workplace well-being. slightly less adult conversation, I imagine, because I don't think you're allowed to do half of the stuff we spoke about tonight in the workplace.
No.
We will check your HR policy whether you're allowed to or not. But yeah, we will catch you on Wednesday night. So thank you very much all for listening, and we will catch you on the next one. Thank you.
Thank you.
And